we get a huge info drop about Xbox Game Studios. All right, guys, before we get into this, I see a lot of you are new here. If you enjoy what you see throughout this video, please consider hitting that subscribe button. 2022. It has been a rough year for Xbox Game Studios with the delays of Redfall and Starfield. People have been waiting for a big first-party AAA game from Xbox this year, and it isn't going to be coming until 2023. But once 2023 hits, the narratives around Xbox and Xbox Game Studios, I think, will be pretty much shattered, as we are going to be getting a ton of great content. Now, Xbox Game Studios head Matt Booty talked about how Xbox Game Studios is going, the management of it, plus a lot of other things on the Friends Per Second podcast with Skill Up and others. So let's take a look at what Matt Booty said. But first of all, Halo Infinite, that has been a game that has gone through many trials and tribulations. A game that when it launched was really good. People were really on board and excited because of the prospect of what this thing could be, especially with how good the gameplay for Halo Infinite is. Unfortunately, through the year of its release, they have failed to deliver on bringing out enough content to keep people engaged, and the proof for that is in the pudding with the amount of concurrent players that are continuously playing Halo Infinite. Halo Infinite, in my opinion, is a premier first-person shooter. It should always be at the top of mind of all of the people who are playing first-person shooters. The gameplay is premier. It's that good, but the content is lacking. And I think they will be able to turn this around. This is a project that is a long-term project, but they really got to get people on board by bringing better updates. Now, Matt Booty talked about Halo Infinite, the launch, what is going on before 3. Here's what he says.
So obviously, Halo Infinite is having a rough run. It hasn't quite landed in the way that, or it landed well, I think, but since then, it's really struggled quite a bit. So what does Microsoft or yourself put that down to? And what is the general approach for the next little while to get that back on track?
Yeah, well, you put it well, right? I mean, in December, I think we had a peak of around 20 million players playing the game, and just kudos to the team for building and shipping a game during some pretty challenging times, right? Like last year, still in the midst of the pandemic, still everybody trying to figure out how to adapt to remote work and hybrid work, which I think if there is a worst case condition for trying to get games done there, it is the big multi-hundred person team trying to final a game, right? And just went smack into that. So kudos on shipping it. As is apparent, these days with a game like Halo Infinite, shipping the game is just the beginning. There's got to be a plan for content sustain. There's got to be a plan for regular continuing engagement. And we just fell short on the plan on that. So we have really retrenched. We have got some changes in how the team is set up. We've got some changes in leadership. And we've just got to really get refocused around that sustained content plan and making sure that we're bringing a regular update of content for the players. And, just thank you to the players for sticking with us through this, right? I mean, we know that there is, way more demand and there's so much more we could be delivering. Appreciate the players sticking with us. And that is our focus right now, is on quality of life for the game and getting on a regular cadence of content, getting back to that. And it was, I think, you put it well. It was a little bit of good finish across the finish line, and then sort of the classic runner's mistake of kind of tripping and stumbling as you come across the finish line. And we've got to recover there. So, the burden is on us. The team's very focused on that right now. And it's a reflection of I think something that's very different today than, 5 or 10 years ago in the industry, of just that arc of production really has to focus on what is that plan after you put the game out in the market, because there's really, the phrase of like gone gold or we shipped the game. I don't really know that has as much meaning today as it did, 5 or 6 years ago.
So he was very honest there in terms of what 343 is going through right now with Halo Infinite. They understood that once they passed that finish line, they dropped the ball. And now they are changing things internally, and they are going to be getting ready in order to make up for that. Bring us more content, bring us more stuff for Halo Infinite. And I'm hoping this is definitely going to mean the game is going to recover, because as he said at the beginning, for Halo Infinite, when they launched the game, the amount of players was absolutely insane. They were breaking records for concurrent players in the Halo franchise. It was a massive success at launch, but it fell off pretty fast, and people were predicting that this potentially could happen if they didn't continuously bring out the great content for Halo Infinite. It's their first really live service game. They're learning, and that's definitely understandable, but when you have an IP as popular, as prominent, and as big for Xbox as Halo, you need to deliver even if it is your first try at a certain style of game. Now, the next thing he talks about is Xbox Game Studios and how people from across the studios can work together horizontally.
Are there any examples you can share of like some cross-pollination that that we would know and be like, oh, that thing that you really liked from that game, actually it came from this other place, or I mean, anything like that?
Well, and I don't know that I would point to something that's already out, but I'll just, give an example. I mentioned Undead Labs, right? Great studio, but they're relatively modest sized studio. We don't have 300 people working on State of Decay 3, but there is a desire. We want that game to compete. We want it to compete visually. And one of the things that the team there is really focused on is animation technology, being able to really up for State of Decay 3, the interactivity between the player and the environment, and some of the things that the Coalition is working on for their next project directly applies to that. So there's just been a lot of great sharing. It's cool to be able to go and see an update and see a demo and hear the team say, oh, and here's this code that we got, from the Coalition, and look at how we put it to work. And you're like, wow, that's really cool. And I didn't see that in State of Decay 2. That's pretty cool, right? Another example, even within a studio, would be something like Grounded, right? Grounded, I think we're at over 13 million players as of today. We just did the full 1.0 release. Very small team, right, of about 20 people. And how do you get a game done with that small of a team inside Obsidian? Well, you use all the tools that Obsidian has got, all that RPG tooling, all the things that they've put together. You sort of are pulling things off the shelf to be able to go put your own spin and your own idea on it. I think for me, just Grounded is such a great example of how you can create something that's got a cool, unique feel. It's clearly something that stands on its own. It innovates, but it didn't require a lot of technology heavy lift because they were really using stuff that came off the shelf from, years of work at Obsidian.
So what he talked about there, I really, really like. This is something that Phil Spencer talked about at the Xbox and Bethesda roundtable. If you remember that, after Bethesda was acquired, they got everybody together in one room, Todd Howard, Phil Spencer, and Pete Hines and other people around at Xbox, and they were discussing what this is going to mean for Xbox Game Studios. What is this going to mean for Bethesda? One of the things they talked about was the fact that they now are going to be able to use other studios, to work with people from other studios for their knowledge and for their technology to help build out their games. And obviously this is going to be if employees at a different development studio wants to help work on a game somewhere else. And it seems like they are really looking into doing that, and they are utilizing the ability to be able to just take the wealth of knowledge that they have with all the studios at Xbox Game Studios. The fact that the Coalition is providing their expertise and knowledge to other games that are going to be coming out is something I think you should be excited about, especially if you look at the Gears of War series and the quality that game is. And then you think about the Hive Busters DLC that I don't think gets enough recognition for the high level of quality. It is up there, in my opinion, with Sony games that come out that people love to hold at such a high regard as a high quality game. The Coalition is on the same level, and we are going to see amazing stuff for them in the future. Now in 2023, the two biggest games that are going to be coming out are Redfall and Starfield. In terms of right now, games that we know are going to be making a release date. And again, of course, they get delayed until 2024, which I think is extremely doubtful. Now, we don't have official release dates yet, but kind of know now that Redfall will be making its release before Starfield, as Matt Booty essentially confirmed this in this interview. Here's what he says.
Flight coming up, and then we've obviously got Redfall from Arcane, and then as we start to look down the road on the calendar, obviously Starfield coming up. So it's just an awful lot of
So that's a quick clip there, but he says we have Redfall from Arcane, and then we look down the road and we have Starfield. So you can assume that Starfield is going to be coming out after, but we're not sure what that means because Starfield had been delayed until early 2023. But let's say Redfall comes out in February or March. I highly doubt they're going to be wanting to launch Starfield alongside that. So it may mean Starfield is going to be pushed further down into 2023. And with a game like Starfield, I'm completely okay with that. We've waited a long time for it now. It was supposed to be coming out this year, this month. It would have been a massive month for Starfield, and it has now been pushed to 2023, but it's one of those games, as I've said multiple times on this channel, it's a once in a generation chance to be able to capture an audience like they did capture with Skyrim, a game that is going to last the entire generation. It's going to be a game that you play in 10 years from now and love it just as much. And to do that, to make sure that they can capture that audience, they can't have a fiasco like they had with Cyberpunk 2077 at the launch of the game. They need to make sure this game comes out polished. It is not extremely buggy. Of course, there will be small things here and there that need to be patched as we move through the game, but they need to make sure that the quality of the product when it released is very, very high. So that was just some interesting tidbits from Matt Booty, the head of Xbox Game Studios. I think there's a lot of interesting things to take away from there. I really like that he was transparent with Halo, so we can look forward to hopefully some really awesome content coming to Halo Infinite in the future. And I like that we now know that all these studios have that opportunity to work together, and the fact that they can just kind of go out there and take technologies off the shelf that have previously been used with other games that have been successful, I think is going to help build out a lot more Xbox Game Studio games in the future. And they have to get on that cadence. They have to get into that routine of releasing first-party Xbox Game Studio games every couple of months. And I think 2023 is going to be the beginning where we really, really start to see that. I know people are going to laugh and say it's always waiting for Xbox. It's always next year. It's always this, that, and the other thing. But in 2021, I thought they delivered very well with Forza Horizon 5 and with the Halo Infinite launch. 2022 haven't had anything big, but I think Pentiment is going to be a really, really fun game. But 2023 is that year, and I think the excuses are all going to be shattered. I think they are going to deliver with some really great games. But that's it for me, guys. What are your thoughts on all these things that Matt Booty said? If you enjoyed this video, make sure to hit that like button. If you are new here, you enjoy what you saw, consider hitting that subscribe button. Thank you all for watching. Thank you for your support, and I'll catch you in the next video.
We'll be right back.